Alright, time to watch some TV.
You're a kid now, you're a squid now. You're a kid, you're a squid, you're a kid, you're a squid, you're a kid now.
Hey, that looks like fun. Time to not buy it for some ungodly reason that not even I can describe and eventually come to regret it 9 years down the line when Nintendo shuts down Nintendo Network, making it impossible to play the online mode officially. I would normally write a skit about how I feel about not getting this game sooner, but I cannot accurately describe what I am feeling right now just holding this game. So instead, I'm going to scream. Splatoon! If you were a kid in 2015 raised on the Wii U, you very likely remember playing this game. I know I don't. First released in Japan on May 28th, North America and Europe on May 29th, and Australia on May 30th, this game did shockingly well for a game released on Nintendo's second favorite fuck-up, selling 4.9 million copies. You'd be akin to Square Enix to think this game failed horrendously, as it scored 6th best-selling Wii U game of all time, only falling behind two mainline Mario games, Mario Kart 8, the Wii U's launch pack-in game Nintendo Land, and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. This game sold like hotcakes and was loved by everyone who played it. And why is that? For the longest time, I didn't really know nor care much. This game plagued everything I was interested in throughout the years, always showing up in some small way. I thought maybe it was the characters, maybe the music, the story, hell, maybe the way it played. It was pretty much the first notable game ever to really use motion controls for aiming in a shooter, helping popularize the idea of using motion controls in shooter games. Stupidly, every time this game reared its innocent little cephalopod head, I brushed it off, not really thinking much of it, thinking of it as just another Nintendo IP that's just so happened to be really popular, like Metroid, Donkey Kong, Wario Land, and so on. Can you imagine my surprise when I first played this game? The 8th of April 2024 at 8 p.m. EST, Nintendo shut down Nintendo Network, the online service the Nintendo Wii U and Nintendo 3DS line of systems used to connect you with other players for online play. This was a big announcement for many Wii U and 3DS owners like myself, as once Nintendo Network shut down, there was no way to play and enjoy the online services that the Wii U and 3DS still had. Mainly online play at this point. I, along with many others, had turned on their Wii U's and 3DS's to play their favorite Wii U and 3DS games online one last time. It was quite a night, and the Halo-esque initiative to keep Nintendo Network online for as long as possible began as people realized they weren't immediately kicked offline. I never participated because I had things to do, and when the time came for the servers to shut down, I said, "Welp, had my fun," and shut off my console. However, other people managed to keep their Wii U's and 3DS's online for literal months, obliterating the original record Halo 2 players set 14 years ago when Xbox Live servers shut down. If you're curious, as of writing, Fishguy6564, the last person on Nintendo Network, had managed to go almost 7 full months past the shutoff point before his 3DS crashed on the 3rd of November. While sad, it's impressive how long he managed to go, especially since the record Halo 2 players managed to set was just a measly 25 days. The shutdown was really the thing that made me realize I should have played Splatoon when Nintendo Network was still up. So, I got a copy off eBay, and on the 24th of April, I finally did something I should have done almost a decade ago. I played Splatoon. Oh fuck! Honestly, all of my assumptions were correct at the same time. This game is made by its characters, its music, its story, the feel of the controls as you play, all the attention to detail, everything. Did you know that the sign outside Eminence is actually plugged into an actual outlet? I was honestly really charmed by this game, and as I played on, I realized slowly how much I missed out on. I eventually got an SD card for my Wii U so I could homebrew it and go online on Splatoon. I honestly had a lot of fun finally playing online, with my first ever match taking place on Arowana Mall, making it and Urchin Underpass possibly my favorite maps in Splatoon ever, due to the association I have with these maps. However, before I even begin gushing about the online, my introduction to what Splatoon was was the hero mode, given I had no access to online at first. Honestly, hero mode, even if the story isn't to the scale of later entries, is probably the best in the original Splatoon. I don't know what it is with Splatoon 1's hero mode, it's just really neat. The hub is really peaceful, the stages are cool as hell, the way the story progresses is awesome, and the small amount of replayability you get with the original's hero mode is enough to keep you playing for quite a while without getting bored if this is all you have. While you can speed through each level and get through hero mode in just a few hours, you also have sunken scrolls you can collect that reveal more about this world's lore. Talking about the Great Turf War that happened 100 years prior to the game's events, which destroyed relations between Inkling and Octarian kind, forcing Octarians underground while Inklings ruled the surface. Plus, more recent events, like how the Squid Sisters formed, current fashion trends for Inkling kind, and even some Octarian propaganda painting Inklings as these evil, merciless beasts. You also have upgrades you can buy with power eggs. Unlike in later games, Splatoon 1 Hero Mode only comes with 5 upgradable items, all of which have 4 tiers of upgrading, which cost exponentially more power eggs the more you upgrade. The Hero Shot is the most expensive thing to upgrade, yet is also the silliest thing to upgrade, as upgrading the Hero Shot makes it shoot faster, eventually turning it into a laser beam. You can also shoot for longer by upgrading your ink tank, which is recommended if you upgrade your Hero Shot too. There's 3 different sub-weapons you can use in Hero Mode, 2 of which need to be unlocked first. You start off with just flat bombs and can unlock burst bombs and seekers, and all 3 can be upgraded to increase the blast radius of the bombs. Captain Cuttlefish, the old man you stupidly follow into the sewers that lead to Octo Valley, Splatoon 1 Hero Mode's location, guides you through most of Hero Mode. He gives you advice on what to do, how to do certain things, some general tips to make life easier for you, and has some funny banter as you make your way through each level. He's the only character in Hero Mode you can speak to directly in the hub, sticking around the first area and giving little remarks about the current situation. Cuttlefish gets captured after the 3rd area, with the mysterious Agents 1 and 2 showing up immediately after to fill in for him after getting an SOS from him. Spoilers for an almost decade-old game, this is Callie and Marie, aka the Squid Sisters. While they never explicitly say that's who they are, intentionally, their icons match the look of the Squid Sisters 1-to-1, and they suck at hiding it in their dialogue. Agents 1 and 2 stick with you until the final boss, DJ Octavio. Speaking of bosses, all of the bosses in Splatoon 1 are pretty cool. Even if they're all a little basic, they're at least creative in how you have to defeat them in some way requiring you to utilize your abilities as an Inkling. Whether it be inking their side and climbing on them to reach their weak points, inking territory in order to slow them down and even get them stuck in place so you can land a hit on them, or even relying solely on your main and sub-weapons to avoid certain death, the bosses are trying to test you in some way. Then, we get to DJ Octavio, the real test of skill. Octavio puts you through your paces, requiring you to have to manage multiple things at the same time. At minimum, you have to manage 2 things, but it only gets worse if you fumble in any way, as things can quickly begin to pile up on you. One thing you have to manage is shooting Octavio's rocket fists back at him, which is how you deal damage and push him back. Pushing him back far enough swaps this task out with a similar task, as he shoots a big missile out that you have to deflect back at him in a lethal game of bomb tennis. After managing to shoot the missile back 3 times in a row, he'll get hit, and you'll progress to the next phase of the fight. Another thing you'll have to manage is the many smaller missiles he shoots out almost constantly, even when you're ping-ponging the giant missile back and forth. These are Octorpedoes, and all you really have to do is shoot them and they'll blow up early, sometimes inking territory in your color. However, let them hit the ground and they'll take territory away from you, which, while merely annoying, can, in a really bad situation, hinder you just enough to get splatted. There's also the killer whale that Octavio uses from phase 2 onwards, typically after every other missile barrage, which you have to move out of the way of to not get hit. His killer whale can cut you off from a decent amount of the arena if you're not careful with your movement. This can be bad if you're not good at dealing with the other threats on the battlefield. However, his killer whale is overall a simple annoyance you can really just ignore. After a couple phases, Octavio then starts shooting out bombs that spawn enemies, replacing some of the Octorpedoes. These enemy spawning bombs are dealt with in the same way as the Octorpedoes, just don't let them hit the ground, otherwise you're going to have to deal with an Octarian while managing Octavio's attacks. There are 5 phases to Octavio's fight, and the vibe of the fight really changes once you get to the final phase. Throughout the fight so far, Octavio has this sort of menacing aura to him, but when phase 5 hits, the Calamari incantation starts playing and Octavio begins to involuntarily dance, realizing how absolutely screwed he is. This phase is genuinely one of the most hectic of all of the phases, as Octavio is now pulling out all the stops. Tons of Octorpedoes are shot at you, with quite a few enemy spawning bombs being thrown out too, spawning Twinticle Octotroopers, the hardest normal non-Octoling Octarians to defeat. Despite the hectic nature of this final phase, Octavio still functions the same way as usual, and once you shoot the big missile back a 3rd time during this phase, Octavio is shot out of his Octobot King Mech and shooting him launches him back at it, ending the fight. The whole vibe the afterfight cutscene and credits have is just amazing, and is genuinely my favorite ending to any game ever. The credits in general are really cute and creative, as you have to ink the screen to even see the credits and all the art that goes by with them. Genuinely, some of this art is just adorable, and I love seeing these silly little drawings scroll by as I ink more of the credits. Maritime Memory playing in the background of the credits kinda has that the adventure is over and I have some really cool friends vibe to it, and I find that pretty cool. Now though, after the closure of Nintendo Network, the credit sequence kinda took on a more nostalgic and melancholic feel. That's pretty much everything I can talk about in Splatoon 1 Hero Mode without repeating myself or full-on rambling about every single little detail, so I'll move on. Did you know Splatoon has local multiplayer? No, not that. That requires multiple consoles and is dumb and stupid, and look at this! Same console, 2-player multiplayer, both players have their own screen, and you can easily laugh in the face of the other player when you win using the fucking Wii U Pro Controller, hell yeah! This is the Battle Dojo, one of a couple modes in Splatoon that has an entry fee. If you want to play in the Battle Dojo, you'll need a Wii U Pro Controller. I am already getting pissed and I just picked up the controller! See, the Wii U Pro Controller is a strange little thing. It's designed exactly like a Wii U gamepad and Xbox controller had a child. It's got the lack of features of the Xbox controller combined with both sticks being on the top of the controller just like the gamepad. You're pretty much playing at a disadvantage using this controller by itself, because it literally has nothing compared to the gamepad. Splatoon is a game that uses motion controls to aim, which the gamepad is capable of doing quite easily, but this thing doesn't. So, what is a squid to do? Get used to an inferior method of gaming? Ha! No! Nintendo, you bastard, that's genius! And back passwords at the same time! So what you're supposed to do is tie a Wiimote with Wii Motion Plus to your Wii U Pro Controller using a shoelace, and I used rubber bands instead because it's easier to do and it's practically as good as shoelaces. And to activate the motion controls on your Wii U, world's weirdest excuse for not implementing motion controls into the controller itself, Pro Controller, you have to hold down on the D-pad and B as you press ZL and ZR on the Wii U Pro Controller to activate motion control functionality. Then press 2 on the Wiimote to activate the motion controls. Why not just build motion controls into the controller itself? Because that would be too much effort for a console that died before release. However, once you actually manage to get the motion controls working on the Wii U Pro Controller, the Battle Dojo is pretty fun. You and one other person go toe-to-toe in Balloon Battle, the only mode in and exclusive to the Battle Dojo, to see who can pop the most balloons in the allotted time, trying to get a score of 30 points. Balloons for the first 4 minutes of the match are 1 point per balloon, but increase to 2 points per balloon in the last minute. There are a decent amount of weapons to try out plus 5 stages to play on total. The weapons at your disposal are the Splatter Shot, Jet Squelcher, Splat Roller, Aerospray MG, Splat Charger, Classic Squiffer, Blaster, and Rapid Blaster. The weapons come with the sub-weapon they normally come with on their default kit, but are without their specials. The maps available in the Battle Dojo are Arowana Mall, Pre-2.0.0 Urchin Underpass, Blackbelly Skate Park, Salt Spray Rig, and Walleye Warehouse. While the objective of Balloon Battle can be achieved very quickly if you're able to snipe all the balloons before your opponent, you lose points by getting splatted. Points are lost proportional to the amount of points you already have, which can even the playing field if your opponent is good at shutting you down. The balloons come in waves, 7 balloons per wave, with their location being marked with an indicator. You'll definitely need some map knowledge in certain situations to know how to get to the balloons, and some of these maps are less conducive to balloon battle than others. The map my local co-op buddy and I found the most fun for Balloon Battle was Blackbelly Skate Park. The reason was, its design was great for getting around and fighting in, especially for new players. Urchin Underpass was a close second due to it being slightly more challenging to get around in, but is still really fun. And Arowana Mall and Walleye Warehouse tied for third for different reasons. The design of Arowana Mall here is different, where these little raised up areas are great instead of the flat ground we see in the current version. Which that and the sheer lack of safety rails made Arowana Mall, while fun to play on, consist of a lot of accidental falls into water. Walleye Warehouse was just very big and open, with balloon positions being very distant from each other. These special boxes here aren't very plentiful on Walleye Warehouse as well, and are quite spread out. This stage is fun in Turf War, but it kinda lacks what's needed for a really fun game of Balloon Battle. Then there's Salt Spray Rig, which we didn't exactly think worked well for Balloon Battle. I already don't think this map was designed properly for Turf War, and it's a bit more exaggerated here. The map's very windy, has a lot of places to fall off into the water, and while it doesn't take forever to get from place to place if you're experienced enough, the balloon placements are not exactly close together and can be a bit confusing. Overall, compared to all the other stages, Salt Spray Rig could have been better. Those special boxes, by the way, drop a special kind of canned special, only found in Balloon Battle. Unlike normal canned specials, which give you a guaranteed special, these have a random chance to automatically deploy one of 3 specials, 3 subs, or the super jump ability. Depending on your luck, you might get some of the most insane pulls, or end up with something useful on the opposite side of the map from where you'd want to use it. These canned specials replace the specials that would normally come on any of the weapons found in the Battle Dojo, but don't because you're in the Battle Dojo. The possible items you could get from a canned special in Balloon Battle are Bubbler, Ink Strike, and Ink Zuka for specials, Disruptor, Point Sensor and Sprinkler for subs, and Super Jump and Full Power Up for abilities. Ink Strike automatically targets the other player's location, striking the location they were when the Ink Strike was deployed. Ink Zuka can be used to pop balloons if you're next to them when you acquire the special. Bubbler merely exists. Disruptor automatically applies the debuffs you'd normally get from the sub to your opponent. Point Sensor automatically reveals your opponent's location like Point Sensor normally does. Sprinkler automatically throws out a sprinkler in a random direction, which can either put it in a benign location or in one that either hinders your opponent severely or gets you some extra balloon points. Super Jump simply causes you and your opponent to swap positions through a super jump, and Full Power Up temporarily increases your run and swim speed and boosts ink recovery. You can even combo using canned specials. The only real combos I managed to find was Disruptor into Ink Strike and Super Jump into shooting your opponent when you land, but I can imagine that something like Point Sensor into Ink Zuka could be quite cool. Overall, this is a pretty good mode, dragged down by the fact that you need to jump through some hoops to get the best possible experience. However, once you get motion controls enabled on your Wii U Pro controller, this mode is super fun, and I hope they bring it back sometime soon. Either as a second casual mode to Turf War, or as an exclusive to the Shoal. My hopes on it sitting next to Turf War in online battles for Splatoon 4, as it would be cool to see Balloon Battle more realized as a full-on mode. I did mention earlier that the Battle Dojo is one of a couple modes with an entry fee, and the other one is the challenges you get from the Amiibo box by scanning in certain Splatoon Amiibo figures released for this game. They're akin to DLC without the D and L and instead, and There were 5 amiibo released for the original Splatoon total, with 3 of them having challenges for you to do, and the other 2 acting as a sound select for Squid Sisters songs. So Inkling Girl, Boy, and Squid give you challenges to do for rewards, and the challenges they give you are for Hero Mode. For Inkling Girl, you have to use Charger in Hero Mode stages for a school uniform and the Hero Charger. Inkling Boy, use Roller in Hero Mode stages for Samurai Armor and the Hero Roller. Inkling Squid? Hey, how about you turn into a giant fucking squid and terrorize the Octarian population while also speedrunning? Okay, now you have to conserve some ink. Back to being a giant squid, woo! Reward. Oh yeah, reward! Here, have the power armor from Fallout, but green. And the hero shot too, that too. Woo! Big squid! Honestly, these challenges are a cool way to freshen up Hero Mode stages. While you aren't running through the entirety of Hero Mode with a Charger, Roller, or Kraken, only a select few stages picked from each area of Octo Valley, plus the boss from each area as an extra challenge every 3 stages, it's still fun blasting through these stages with whatever you're given. This is also the first time we see the need to conserve ink in Splatoon, which is an objective more present in the later Octo expansion, but I'll talk more about that in a later video. While simple, these challenges are fun, and the stages picked out for each amiibo's challenge is picked specifically because it works well with the challenge you're given, with the exception of the first 3 stages because Area 1 only has 3 stages. Some of the levels feel better suited to the challenge you're given, and some aren't as much. Then there's these 2 levels. They suck. As one's an ink conservation level where you have to waste most of your ink splatting Octarians and shooting sponges to expand them just enough to progress, and the other is a roller level with quite a few tentacle Octo Troopers, a lot of them shielded, on thin platforms. Nonetheless, this is still a good way to spend your day as long as you have the amiibo that have these challenges. Along with gear and weapons, you also unlock minigames you can play at this arcade machine right next to Booyah Base, or in the lobby while waiting for a match. There are 4 arcade minigames in total that you can play, with 3 of them needing to be unlocked via amiibo. These minigames are Squid Jump, the game you have by default, Squid Racer, unlocked by completing enough of Inkling Boy's challenges, Squid Ball, unlocked by completing enough of Inkling Girl's challenges, and Squid Beats, unlocked by completing enough of Inkling Squid's challenges. Starting off, Squid Jump. If you've ever played Doodle Jump, this should seem familiar. You're just trying to climb upwards while avoiding falling down. However, there's a definitive end to each level and you can't stay on the platform forever as there is purple goop rising up from the bottom of each level. Instead of jumping constantly as well, you have to charge your jumps, leading to a need to charge jumps just enough to get to the next platform without overshooting too much so you can begin charging your next jump as quickly as possible. There's also some power-ups to help you ascend faster. There's the red fish, which immediately launches you up the length of a full charge when touched, the jellyfish, which allows you to jump twice before needing to land for 10 seconds, and the starfish, which increases your overall speed for 10 seconds, meaning you jump upward, fall downwards, and move sideways at twice the speed. Next, Squid Racer. This is your standard racing game. Complete the track faster than your opponents to hopefully get first place. While you don't have to place within the top 3, you get more points depending on how many jellyfish you outrank in the top 3. You have a couple things to help you go faster and beat your jelly opponents: red fish, green sunfish, and the zap fish. The red fish gives you a speed boost, the green fish increases your turning speed including drifts which go crazy, and the zap fish literally allows you to devour your opponents. No one can say you lost when you ate the competition. Next, Squid Ball. This is like volleyball crossed with Angry Birds. Your goal is to knock out as many jellyfish as possible using just 3 volleyballs. It can be a bit finicky trying to hit the ball in just the right way so it takes out enough jellies to pass the level, but the game helps you with this by increasing the size of the ball every attempt. However, if you miss all 3 balls, you'll game over and have to start over from the beginning. There's also other sea creatures that can spawn on the other side of the net with the jellies. There's the starfish, which are worth 3 jellies, the green sunfish, essentially bombs that break apart into tiny shards when struck and can hit a ton of jellies if you're lucky, and sea urchins, which are barriers that can either fully stop you or really slow you down depending on the size of your ball. Lastly, Squid Beats. This is essentially a sound select for the whole game's soundtrack, with a cool thing to do while you listen to the music. You have 31 tracks to choose from, with some being locked behind special requirements to play them in squid beats. This is more like a little radio than a rhythm game, however, as when you activate the little fun mode with ZL and start pressing buttons to the indicators, all that really happens is more and more jellies get replaced by what the wiki calls rabbits. Sure. There really isn't a lose condition, and the songs loop forever. You do lose yellow rabbits if you miss enough notes, or just let it sit for a while without pressing anything, but this is pretty much just a radio for those long queue times in the lobby. Overall, these are fine little things. They're good time wasters when you're waiting in the lobby for it to fill up, and then there's one slot left, and the lobby's about to die, and please, game, just fill in the slot already? Oh my god! However, they don't really do much more than that. They're just time killers to keep you preoccupied while you're waiting for your match. And, well, they don't really do much more than that. I find that pretty neat. However, going back to the amiibo box, we never covered what these last two amiibo do. While yes, deductive reasoning using what I've said so far about the amiibo makes it obvious what they do, it's easier to just scan them in and talk about them. I'll literally explode if I don't. This is, as you can guess, Callie and Marie from the Squid Sisters in amiibo form. Scanning either of them in lets you listen to any of their songs, with one of the songs being different dependent on which cousin you scan in. If you've never participated in a Splatfest in Splatoon 1, this is your only way to listen to 3 of their songs, as they're locked behind a stupid requirement and squid beats. Listening to any of their songs puts you in a Splatfest version of Inkopolis Plaza, where you are addressed as being part of either Team Callie or Team Marie from the Final Fest, determined based on which amiibo you scanned in. Here, you can listen to the song you selected for as long as you want. You can also explore the hub and pretend you were part of a Splatoon 1 Splatfest if you were that desperate. Aside from that, there's not really much to do here. It's just a normal hub without any of the functionality of the hub, and the only way to go to the shops, play online, or do anything that isn't sitting around listening to the same song over and over again is to exit and return to the normal Inkopolis Plaza. So, better pray Pretendo gets Splatfest functionality done soon, because it would be cool to explore this hub and still participate in normal Splatoon activities. Oh no. There has to be something else I can talk about before getting into the online aspect of Splatoon. Right? Come on, no, that requires it. I've already talked about that. Fine, okay. It looks like everything else I can talk about requires an internet connection, so that means we're going to have to talk about online battles. So, pretty much everything else in Splatoon revolves around online battles. The shops, Inkopolis News, Spike. The only thing that doesn't is Plaza posts, which are tied to Miiverse. They aren't complicated enough to dedicate a whole paragraph to, they're just posts you can make in Splatoon that show up on Miiverse that people can give a yeah either in-game or in Miiverse, and they can show up on maps as graffiti on the walls. Everything else, though, plays in some way into online battles. And to start off, later. The shops! You can't fight turf wars and ranked battles if you don't have the adequate weaponry and gear to give you the upper hand. That's where these shops come into play! You are given some gear to start you off at first, but if you want to try out some other gear or weapons, you need to head to Booyah Base and buy yourself that gear and or weapons. If you're looking for weapons, Sheldon's your guy. Just head over to Ammonites and see what he's got in store. Ammonites doesn't sell just individual weapons, by the way, they all come in kits. As you level up more and more, you'll have more and more weapon kits to try out and buy. Many of these weapon kits have the same main weapons, but change the subs and specials out to help balance the weapons in different ways. Just pick what you think looks pretty cool and roll with it. To help make life easier with the weapon you're choosing, you gotta have the right gear equipped. That's where Cooler Heads, Jelly Fresh, and Shrimp Kicks come in. All the pieces of gear you buy from these places function identically to each other, with the differences being what cosmetic type it is, and what abilities come default on them. Cooler Heads sells hats, Jellyfresh sells shirts, and Shrimp Cakes sells shoes. You can only have one hat, shirt, and pair of shoes equipped, and every piece of gear can have one main ability and 3 secondary abilities. Depending on what your gear's star level is, you'll have differing amounts of secondary ability slots amongst all your gear. Secondary ability slots can be increased by upping the star level of your gear, which is done by heading over to the alleyway on the other side of the map and talking to the local shady man, Spike. Spike is an interesting fellow. He offers you just one service at first, but as you play, he'll offer you more. At first, you can only order gear from him, particularly any gear you see other Inklings in the plaza wearing. It'll take a day to get to you, and it might not have the same abilities, but you'll have the gear you wanted, obtain a Super Sea Snail, and you'll gain access to the ability to add slots onto your gear and re-roll the secondary abilities of any piece of gear you like. This becomes easier once you hit level 20, as if you're out of Super Sea Snails, you'll instead be able to pay 30,000 G for adding slots and re-rolling abilities. Once you're happy with your weapon, gear, and the abilities your gear has, now we can move on to the real meat and potatoes of online battles. But first, gotta know what the stages are, you know, and the hosts, Callie and Marie, are here to announce them. Every 4 hours, the maps you play in Turf War and Ranked Battle are swapped out for new maps. Both Turf War and Ranked Battle have different maps, but there is always 2 maps available per mode during any given rotation. Note, a poll is held by Pretendo on the 3rd of August asking if the rotation times in Splatoon should be shortened. Lowering the rotation times won, and as of the 13th of August, Pretendo switched Splatoon to 2-hour rotations where maps in Splatoon changed every 2 hours instead of every 4. As the hosts for Inkopolis News, Callie and Marie make some clips about the stages that they announce in the new rotation. These interactions between both members of the Squid Sisters can be pretty funny sometimes, but the dialogue can repeat quite a bit, so some of the jokes they make can get a bit old. You also can't skip the news in Splatoon 1, which is a little annoying, but it's not horrible, and you can just mash the A button to get through the news segment decently fast, due to how short the news is in this game. Now that we know of the maps in rotation and have our weapon and gear ready, we can get into some online battles. Starting off, Turf War. You only have access to Turf War online until you hit level 10, where you unlock Ranked Battle. The goal of Turf War is to ink as much of the map as possible in 3 minutes. Only the floors count, by the way, so only ink the walls if you absolutely need to, like to climb up somewhere. This mode is a great way to learn how the game works, as all you have to do is ink. Shooting in any direction is helpful as long as you're not sitting in the middle of an area already inked by your team. There's a reason Turf War is the only mode you have access to at first, and it's my overall preferred mode in the series. Ranked Battle is interesting as it has 3 modes to play, and the mode in rotation changes with the map. There is Splat Zones, Tower Control, and Rainmaker. Winning or losing a Ranked Battle match affects your Ranked Battle rank, which determines who you face off against in Ranked Battle. The higher your rank, the better the players, and vice versa. Starting off, Splat Zones. This is your King of the Hill mode. It functions just like Turf War, but there's a designated area you have to ink, and keep inked until a counter hits 0. The opposing team can contest the zone, but as long as your team is able to control the map, this is a pretty easy mode to play. I'd say it's the easiest ranked battle mode to get into, and probably the most fair feeling and fun due to its similarities to Turf War. Next, Tower Control. This is your escort mode. Your goal is to escort the tower from the center of the map to the enemy's base. You move the tower closer to the enemy base by getting on it, and the enemy team can contest your control of the tower by either getting on it themselves, or by splatting everyone on the tower. I found this mode the most irritating and unfair one out of every mode, even in later entries. However, it's not a bad mode if your team is very capable, definitely not good for baby's first ranked battle though. Lastly, Rainmaker, another escort mode. Great! The objective here is to take this thing, the Rainmaker, and take it to the enemy's base. Sounds just as simple as tower control. However, you can go wherever you want with this thing, and not only that, the Rainmaker itself is a weapon too, meaning a lot more shenanigans can happen here in this mode compared to tower control. This mode, honestly, works better in Splatoon than tower control does. It's definitely easy to get into if you're not totally incompetent, but it'll take some skill to actually win a match of Rainmaker. It's a level above Splat Zones in difficulty, but it's still a fairly easy mode. There was also a site Nintendo made called Splatnet. Splatnet is the place to go to keep track of your stuff in Splatoon. The stuff you could look at on Splatnet were what friends were online, with attached battle plans, which was a thing that would allow you to tweet out what time you'd be playing and with what equipment, allowing your friends on Twitter who played Splatoon know when you'd be on, what rank you were that week compared to your friends, ranks having been reset every week, your personal stats like your level, in-game rank, the weapon and gear you were using, and the area aimed by each of your weapons, plus the same information for your friends if you click their Mii's on any of the other pages, and the current rotation plus the next upcoming rotations. This would have been a nice thing to be able to use back in the days of Splatoon 1, being able to check the upcoming rotations, what friends were online, and what weapons they were using, plus what everyone's ranks were that week too, and seeing who could get their rank the highest before the end of the week. However, Nintendo would shut down Splatnet on the 30th of September 2017. Not all was lost, however, as you can still check Splatoon 1's rotations through splatoon.oatmealdome.me, which uses Pretendo to gather information on the upcoming rotations. However, everything else Splatnet offered would be lost to time, and that really makes me sad. I hope someone's able to make a sort of Splatnet 1 revival thing, as it would be really cool to actually get to use this site. Oh? What's that? Is that the sound of Splatfest music?
Shit. Sorry, dude. I gotta take this. Hold on.
During the game's life cycle, events would happen every once in a while. These were Splatfests. The main objective of a Splatfest was to fight for one of two teams, typically being based on which out of two options you preferred when asked a question. Do you prefer cats or dogs, art or science, burgers or pizza, and so on. You had to choose which one you liked more and fight to defend your option in Turf War. The winner was based on how many more points one team got over the other. There were even a few crossovers with SpongeBob, Transformers, and Pokemon in their own individual Splatfests. However, Splatfests were region-locked, so while every region occasionally got the same Splatfest at the same time, it was very few and far between, even in later entries. This meant that each region got a ton of exclusive Splatfests, the Transformers Splatfest being exclusive to North America, for example. Splatfests in Splatoon 1 only lasted a singular day, meaning you didn't have very long to participate and contribute to your team. They are also your only way of getting a bunch of Super Sea Snails in Splatoon. Before the final Splatfest, you could only get Super Sea Snails through Splatfests, but after the final Splatfest, Judd began to give out a single Super Sea Snail to players every time they played Dirty Online matches. As of writing and recording, Pretendo hosted Splatfests are currently still being worked on, with there having been a recent test run on their beta servers to test how well Splatfest functionality works right now. The results are promising right now, but I wouldn't expect a new Splatfest in Splatoon 1 through Pretendo for a while at least. The final Splatfest, Cali vs. Marie, happened on the 22nd of July 2016 in every region, marking the end of Splatfests in Splatoon 1. Marie won the final Splatfest, which would have consequences for the next game in the series. The gameplay itself, though, this game is fun as hell! I already fell in love with this game when I only had access to Hero Mode, and online battles have honestly strengthened that love. While I almost always play Turf War, I do find the other modes fun in their own way, even if I don't exactly like one of them. I've definitely had a ton of cool, upsetting, and downright silly moments in Splatoon. It just makes me kick myself harder for not getting into this series sooner, to be honest. While yes, the original Splatoon can be quite wacky compared to later entries, Sawbrush specials are everywhere in this game, and they are genuinely the silliest damn specials ever. I actually prefer this game to both Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3. The original Splatoon has this weird combination of really fun yet insane you can't really get anywhere else, even in the second game, which has a lot of the same chaos of the first game. The maps are also, in my opinion, a perfect mix of pretty good and decently fine. I don't really have that much of a problem with any of the maps here. And as a bonus, this game has both of my favorite maps in the entire series, Urchin Underpass and Arowana Mall. These maps are also pretty peaceful and nice to walk around in while in recon mode. Overall, the original Splatoon was a really great game. It defied the odds and started a really successful series that, while yes, only 3 entries deep at the moment, has managed to keep going strong for almost a full decade. The game has spawned a fanbase of people who love the series to death and are dedicated to every aspect of it. This game is very charming in how it presents itself, from the borderline autistic dialogue that's still seen in the later entries to the cute art style that even makes the controller inputs look Splatoony. The music as well is just awesome. No other game has ever made me feel like I was at home more than the original Splatoon. I keep finding myself turning this game on at least once a month, either to play some online or to play through Hero Mode again. Which is not something I can say about any of my other Wii U games, even Mario Maker, which I've played to death when the Wii U was still Nintendo's most recent console. If I could go back in time and change one thing, I definitely would have gotten into Splatoon sooner. I would have loved to have participated in some of the Splatfests, like Pirates vs. Ninjas or Naughty vs. Nice, see the series grow and experience the story as the games came out, and to grow with the community. Even though I've only really been playing this series for around 8 months as of this video, playing this game always feels like greeting an old friend again. Anyway, I think I've yapped on enough about this game. Let's try its sequel! There's no Urchin Underpass?